Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and no, it is not about oil of Olay. I don't know why I'm getting this massive oil of Olay advertisement. This is about Kathleen Kennedy and the just continuous questions and just how she still has a job and how we're all trying to figure out what is going on. So Disney, stop announcing Star Wars movies and make one. Yeah, make one. Let's finish it off. Make one, make another bomb so we can all just move on and you can sell it to somebody else who actually cares. Another week, another Star Wars announcement that leads to languished sighs all over the internet. Languished sighs. That's what it's come down to now. It's actually true. Every time they make an announcement now, there's almost no hype whatsoever. There's a few shill channels that try to hype it, but even they know, and you can see it in their face, that they just see it's just another announcement that's never going to amount to anything. Imagine you've done that to this IP to the point where you literally make an announcement that everyone's supposed to be like, yeah, and cheering, and people are like, oh yeah, another movie or show that's never getting made, and it doesn't really matter anyway because it's built on a foundation of runny poo. Despite Daisy Ridley saying only a few weeks ago that the Rey-focused Star Wars movie was evolving, and we get an update soon, the news came soon after that. The next untitled Star Wars film has been yanked. And that was what was so funny, is I did a video with that. She was hyping a movie that they're not even making. I mean, God bless her. She really wants to do it, I guess. But, I mean, it's a big bag for her, too. But it ain't getting made. Release date and ignominiously replaced with Ice Age 6, which, again, is hilarious. Whether or not you're excited for the new Ice Age, it's certainly not a great sign that that was supposed to be the crown jewel of the franchise in Disney's lineup when they purchased Star Wars back in 2012, is now being shoved aside for another talking animal movie. Well, they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have a script. They've gone through two different writing teams. Kathy doesn't approve anything that she doesn't like. She should just write it herself then. And wouldn't that be just desserts, guys? If Kathleen Kennedy wrote the next Star Wars movie, it completely bombed, and then that finally solidified that this person... I mean, to me, it's already solidified. She's completely inept and should not be working there. It's a disgrace. But wouldn't that just be the cherry on top for all of us that have been saying for years that she needs to be out of there? That she writes the new Rey movie, and it just completely bombs. That would just be the greatest thing. That would be like YouTube heaven for Star Wars channels. And yet, it's not all surprising. Regardless of anyone's thoughts on the quality of individual projects, the Disney Star Wars era has been rife with corporate mismanagement, constant second-guessing, and an inability to envision a future for the property beyond pilfering from its past. It's a sad state of affairs, but it's also what Lucasfilm has been doing for far too long, to the point that it's time we stop giving the company any credence unless we go through a serious realignment. Let's look at why we all need to stop paying attention to Star Wars. I think it's fun to pay attention to and make fun of it, actually. That's where we're at now. I think a lot of us longtime fans, the people that supported this brand and really made it what it is in terms of the financial success it is and the cultural success it is and cultural influence it is, I think for us at this point, it's just fun to make fun of it. I honestly enjoy making fun of it. I've gone through all the phases of, the denial, the this, the that. You go through the phases. And at this point, I'm just like, it's hilariously ridiculous. Which again, brings me back to Kathleen Kennedy and how she still has a job. I mean, we've gone from people that love this. Like, I was super stoked for The Force Awakens. Me and my buddies all where we went together. There's a bunch of us at the theater. And we were really, really stoked and excited. And we were all, into the lore and big into Star Wars. And we walked out of the theater and we were all kind of quiet. It wasn't like excitement or anything like that. It was just kind of this quiet kind of walking, looking at each other. We got in their vehicles. We carpooled a bit. So I was with one guy and we were talking and we were kind of like, that was kind of weird, eh? And like, what was with that giant Death Star? And, like, what was with, like, how did Rey know how to do all that stuff? And we started breaking it down on the way home, but we still weren't convinced it was bad. We were just kind of like, what is that? And since then, it just has, it was sort of teetering on the edge of the cliff, and it fell right off with the next one, and that was the end of it. That was the end of it. It's been over since the beginning. They bought it. It's been over since 2017. So, anyway, we just like to make fun of it. I just make fun of it. It's funny. As long as the sequels are canon, all you can do is make fun of it. The Rey movie, currently set to be directed by Shinoy, may not have been the movie that just lost its release date, but it most likely was. Of course it was. It may not have been. Of course it was. That was the plan. But Stephen Knight said goodbye. I don't want to rewrite the script 50 more times. Even though the film recently lost Peaky Blinders Stephen Knight, reports have indicated that Rey is important to multiple projects, so her movie was the most probable candidate to launch the next wave of Star Wars films. What's hilarious is they've also pumped the propaganda that like different writers and producers and stuff that are linked to Lucasfilm are fighting over. They all want a Rey movie. They're all clamoring to get a Rey movie. Bull crap. No one knows what they're doing. No one knows what they want to do. They have no plan, just like they never had a plan for any of it. None of it had a plan. Literally, none of it. None of the shows, none of the movies. They have been flying off the seat of their pants the entire time. That's why everything keeps getting retconned. That's why there's huge plot points that don't make any sense. That's why nothing is cohesive. They never had a plan, guys. They could have taken the first year after they bought it and spent a year drawing out a map of what the next 10 years was going to be like. The only thing they did was they said, we want to do these shows in the next 10 years. And then Kennedy came out and announced all this crap. But they never actually sat down and made like a writing tree or like a proper plan as to how each show and each movie is going to move forward, how they're going to tie in or not tie in. They didn't do that. They just said, we want to make this. We want to make a Lando. We want to make a this. We want to make a that. And then she just announces it. And they don't have any plan. Knight leaving would be an understandable reason why the film had been pushed back as they scramble to find some independent script. Yada, yada, yada. Far more Star Wars projects have been announced and failed to materialize than have actually been produced during the Disney era. That's a big red flag for Kathleen Kennedy. Far more. Even if it was just more, that would be bad. But it's far more. And like I said, they just announce. We're doing all this stuff even though we have no plan, blah. And then we hire people that don't want a plan and don't really know anything and just go off the seat of their pants. J.J. Abrams, blah. Game of Thrones showrunners Benioff and Weiss cratered the last season of their most famous project because they were hired to develop Star Wars, only to let it go. Isn't that pathetic? Isn't that pathetic? How long is Game of Thrones? I spent like 20-something hours watching that show. And these two twats ran away to go do stupid Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars. Ruined the final season. And I was there right till the third to last episode. I was even okay with the way the Night King went out and all that stuff. But the last two episodes, what a disaster. And they left to go to Star Wars. And then look what happened. What a waste. Rian Johnson, director of The Last Jedi, had also... Oh, by the way, side note, no one's ever doing that again. The state of Star Wars now, no one who's involved in any major project is ever going to go to Star Wars ahead of their project again. And Stephen Knight's a classic example. He's focusing totally on Peaky Blinders. He doesn't care about Star Wars anymore. And that's what's happening now. The only reason anyone's going to get involved with Star Wars ever again is for money. Rian Johnson also had a trilogy announced that hasn't come together. Yeah, we know that. Josh Trank and Mangold, blah, 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 Boba Fett spinoffs. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron, which apparently she just got sick and tired of dealing with Kathleen Kennedy's notes on her scripts. It could be wrong, but that's the rumor. Dawn of the Jedi, Lando, blah, blah, blah. None of this is getting made. Dave Filoni have all been announced or reported on by Hollywood Trades, but are currently MIA. Yeah, it's ridiculous. To say it's unlikely that most of these films will come to fruition is an extreme understatement. Lucasfilm has repeatedly announced projects that have no real groundswell behind them, seemingly hoping that we all have the memories of Goldfish and won't recall how many times they've pulled the rug out from under us. Does anyone seriously believe that the latest report of X-Men producer Kingberg's trilogy will pan out? Heck no! No one believes that. Nothing is happening. The only thing that they're actually making is the Mando Grogu, which is, at this point, lame. Season 3 ruined it. Actually, it was ruined since they it was Grogu-centered instead of Mando-centered. Has Lucasfilm really banked their future on the Dark Phoenix guy, or they just bide their time? You know what? I did do a video on that. As bad as it's the Dark Phoenix guy, he's better than some of the other people that they've picked. I'll tell you that much. Or they just bide our time until we get more news that Kingberg has departed the project 6 to 12 months from now. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. None of this is getting made. Why does Kathleen Kennedy have a job still? Somebody explain it to me. She's like a meteorologist, right? Getting it wrong every day and keeping your job. The biggest reason why we're in this state is that The Rise of Skywalker detonated the franchise. No, it wasn't The Rise. It started with TFA. It was The Last Jedi. The Rise of Skywalker just basically was beating the horse that was already dead. Yes, the last entry into the Skywalker saga managed to barely crawl over the $1 billion mark, but the film was a creative disaster, spending so much of its time trying to walk back the previous film that it rendered the entire sequel trilogy an exercise in futility. Abrams, Kasdan, and everyone else at Lucasfilm imagined the new trilogy to be when they started out on The Force Awakens. It likely wasn't a limp sprint to a boss fight with a bizarrely resurrected Palpatine completely bereft of stakes or gravitas. The trilogy had some interesting new characters, and The Last Jedi tried to add thematic depth to the proceedings, but The Rise of Skywalker threw all of that out for a tired No, I disagree. The Last Jedi was terrible. So was TFA, really. If you think about it. How is Rey doing a mind trick? Like, how is she flying the Falcon better than TIE fighters fly and Han? Like, come on. It was over before it even started, and it was all about making, Kathleen Kennedy's self-insert the greatest character of all time, but you don't make a great character of all time if that character has absolutely no struggles and just does everything and never has to face any consequences. Remember when she killed Chewie and 5 minutes later she didn't? Because no consequences. So her character was boring and lame. So you can blame The Rise of Skywalker, but it was over long before that. It's horrible, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending The Rise of Skywalker. It's just an absolutely god-awful fetch quest game movie, but it was over long before that. Solo bombed. Yeah, we know that. I hate. You remember how they made him? Let's make his name Solo because he's by himself. It's creative. He's alone, and then the Imperial officer's like, "I'm just gonna make your last name Solo because you're by yourself." It's so creative. How about just don't talk about why he has that last name? How about he just has that last name because that's his last name? No one ever was like, I wonder where he got his last name. I don't remember anyone ever wondering. That movie's so dumb. If the movie hadn't been shot twice, ballooning its budget out of control, it could have been a respectable hit. How? It only made $300 million, even if it didn't spiral out of control. No, it wasn't a hit at all. But the finale of the Skywalker saga should have been the biggest movie of the year by default. Yet not only Episode 9 did not measure up to the previous entries, it suffered from the roughest reviews. Within only 4 years, audiences went from incredibly excited to tremendously weary of Star Wars, and Lucasfilm hasn't been able to get a new film off the ground since. Well, you didn't make it about the Skywalkers, right? That was the problem. Like, it's the Skywalker saga, but it's not, because it's going to be about Rey! And even Ridley admitted she didn't even know her parentage until halfway through the movie. Halfway through shooting. So they shoehorned Palpatine in there. They didn't even know they were going to do that until halfway through shooting. They're like, oh no, we don't know what to do. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff here. I don't want to read everything, you guys. It's a long article. Mandalorian, Season 4 on hold. They just turned it into the movie. It's not that they put Season 4 on hold. They made it into a movie. Thinking it's going to make them relevant because they haven't been in theaters in so long. If anything, it reinforces that the value of Star Wars brand has plummeted to the point that it might not be able to recover from. Imagine taking a TV show and taking a written season of a TV show and saying, the only way to help save this dying brand is to put it into a movie. Something that was never meant to be in theaters. That's how desperate they are. But Kathleen Kennedy keeps her job. It's mind-blowing. Rogue One underwent significant reshoots before the tide turned against the franchise, but that movie came out on the other side as a strong entry and also introduced Tony Gilroy. It's okay. Yeah, I give it a pass. There's problems with Rogue One. People don't want to admit it, but there are. I talk about it in a video I did a couple years ago. Ever since, let's say, mixed online reception to The Last Jedi, I would say worse than mixed, but okay. Okay, we already know that. Tripling down on nostalgia, yeah. Subversive. Deepfake Luke Skywalker strolling onto the screen in the second season of Mandalorian. Despite the stand-in they used looking like a young Mark Hamill who stepped out of a time warp to focusing on Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead into ridiculous-looking cosplay makeup so they can play characters who really should have stayed in animation. to borderline breaking original trilogy canon with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader having another duel. No, it's not borderline. It's not borderline. George Lucas has said this, 2010 interview. You can look up any Star Wars publication talking about the original movies. There's tons of catalogs and different things that show clearly that no, they never met. This is just Disney trying to cash in on stupid people that don't care about the lore and only care about like flashing lights and Darth Vader. That's essentially what they did. And it failed. It failed, thankfully. Thankfully, the fandom was like, no, this is dumb. Lucasfilm's strategy has been to strangle Star Wars to death by refusing to ever let it move forward. Well, because their characters sucked, right? They didn't pass the baton properly. That would have been bad enough on its own, but the company's capitulation to the worst part of its fandom gets even more egregious when you remember they've largely refused to stand behind actors of, oh gosh, I'm not getting into this actors of color nonsense. They can't move it forward. Like, they made the entire sequel trilogy was all about Rey. The other characters really were inconsequential, unlike the original trilogy where everybody worked together as a team. So if her character wasn't going to be compelling, then it's over. And she wasn't, because she didn't have any struggles. So she was a Mary Sue. There's nothing exciting about that. If they had made the other characters more important, like imagine even in The Rise of Skywalker, right? So she comes back and Poe gives her crap. Or no, she's on the planet. Poe comes back with the Falcon. It's all beat up. And Poe gives her crap because she's not out there with them. She's the best pilot in the galaxy. So she's she's everything. Like that meme, right? She's the pilot. She's the information. She's the mechanic. She's the leader. She's the Jedi Knight. She's everything. And so if she didn't have a good arc, it's over. And that was the big issue. And Kathleen Kennedy wanted her self-insert, and this is what she gets. Star Wars is a mess. Cultural leadership, corporate attitude remains in place. Constant hiring and firing and recycling creatives on their project just for one of them to get made is no way to run a movie studio. The cultural rot at the heart of this enterprise is too deep-rooted to be removed by anything less than a complete overhaul. As I've been saying, decanonize all of it. Start again. Sell it. Start again. Elon, buy it. Buy it and decanonize it all and start again. You got the tech. You could de-age some of these people very much better than they did. But whether that's even possible at this stage is anyone's guess. No, it's not unless you decanonize it all. So they have to sell it, and whoever buys it needs to do it. Or they could do that, but they'd never admit that. What they could do is they could do a really awesome. Bob Iger could stand up and do a press conference decanonizing everything since Kennedy started running Lucasfilm, while simultaneously firing Kennedy. That would be the most glorious day ever. That would literally bring back Star Wars. What do you guys think in the comment section? Would that bring back Star Wars? I think it would. What's not is that the franchise has been lost for a long time, and it likely won't find its way out of the woods anytime soon. But until then, we would all be better off if we stopped giving Lucasfilm any benefit of the doubt, because the last few years of Star Wars, I'm afraid to say, that's not how the Force works. No, it's not. And it's garbage. And ultimately, how does she still have a job? She must know where the bodies are buried. Something I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. Ice Age now is more important to Disney than Star Wars. It's just a mess. Oh, let me know in the comment section what you guys think, guys. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. If it helps the channel, feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.